Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wait, What? Why? The podcast that ponders the origins behind the things that we do. Thank you for taking the time to join us today as we discuss the origins of the New Year's Eve ball drop. I'm Nicole Gallagher.
And I'm Dennis Gallagher.
Thank you for joining us today. First of all, I want to wish everyone, I hope everyone had a very Merry Christmas. Not to be a downer, but I feel like COVID has been everywhere a lot more recently.
Running rampant and trying to ruin the holidays as we speak, right?
At least in our lives. So hopefully everyone has stayed safe and healthy and had a lovely holiday festivities with their family.
Safe and healthy, absolutely.
Yes. So before we start, I also wanted to say that we've had, like I said, a huge UK listener base. Yeah. I think the last time we did an episode, I said it was like a third of our listeners, and over the last episode, it was 50% of our listeners.
Blowing up in the UK. Woo!
So thank you to everyone again who's listening.
It's huge.
And also on Spotify now, if you listen on Spotify, you can rate your favorite podcast on the Spotify app. So if you're listening to us via Spotify, please take a second to rate us. We would really appreciate it. And that would really help our podcast to grow.
Cool. Very, very nice. Someone should put in a vote for me for the Yule log. That's my favorite so far.
The Party Like a Viking?
Yeah. That's my favorite one so far.
My daughter told me it should have been named the Christmas Bush.
I know.
Which also would have been appropriate.
For the Christmas Bush, right? Tons of grief. You can't be like a first-time arborist and get, any grief whatsoever. I mean, any slack whatsoever.
You can't call yourself an arborist.
Yes, that's what I was doing. Every year, I perform as an arborist on that tree.
The arborists out there are very angry that
the only people that think it's funny that I messed it up, but they're afraid to clip at their tree. It's true. Off the shelf.
Yeah, that's funny.
Okay.
So New Year's.
Yeah.
It's coming up this week.
Fresh start, right? Everyone gets a fresh start.
Yeah. So we thought for January, a great episode would be to talk about the ball drop. Well, we were talking about different New Year's Eve traditions and things that happen, or I guess traditions.
Yeah, traditions or celebrations. Exactly.
The ball drop is the first thing that comes to my mind.
Super symbolic, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, all over the world watches, and they keep track of times all over the world. And nowadays, they even show the balls dropping in different places all around the world, don't they?
Yeah, they do. All over the world.
Yeah, can you hear our dog?
Yes. That's Gryffindor.
I think someone's here. He's
protecting us from the UPS and FedEx drivers.
Thank God, right? Because they are troublemakers, those guys.
So I've never been to see the ball drop at New York City.
Neither have I, actually. We've both been to Times Square, right, at different times, but never for the ball drop.
Yeah, never been ice skating there. Rockefeller.
Right. I mean, super
Plaza.
Busy.
Yeah.
Standing room only, and yeah.
Well,
kind of too many people for me, really.
Yeah, I think that's why we've always avoided going during the holidays.
And whatnot. And all set. But it is hugely symbolic. I mean, the whole world watches.
So we were trying to think of some New Year's Eve stories we could share with you. And I think the only one that came to our minds was the Y2K Christmas Eve.
Y2K.
New Year's Eve.
Yeah, because everyone thought the computers weren't going to work, and
the whole world was going to shut down.
Time, and our cell phones that were brand new weren't going to work. And
it was going to be like that Stephen King movie where all the appliances take over. What was that called?
Maximum Overdrive.
Yes.
I guess Maximum Overdrive, right, with the AC/DC song.
Yeah, and everyone was like...
Thunderstruck.
Everyone was nervous. I don't even remember why it was going to be a big deal.
Yeah, because they didn't program, supposedly they didn't program the computer's dates to roll to 2000. They thought that they were going to they were just going to stop at 1999 and, somehow not do, continue on and keep doing their job as a calendar or whatever, as a clock.
Yeah, but
something like that. And maybe I'm simplifying it, but.
No, I think you're right. But why did we were just like, we're gonna go into northern Maine with like.
Well, you and I.
Yes.
Wow.
We were gonna escape
we had friends that had gone there as well.
Crazy or something. My father and my stepmother were there, and then our friends went there, and it was just us. It was 6 of us.
Yeah, and that's 5.5 hours from us.
And it was a blast.
Yeah.
We had a ton of fun
with a huge sky full of stars, and we didn't care if the if the clocks didn't stop working. You know, that was the
Campfires
thinking.
and, yeah.
You know, if everything boats started banging into shore because the GPSs weren't working, it wasn't going to matter for us.
We had a lot of fun that year.
We did have a lot of fun that year.
It was like
You'll notice a theme with us. We tend to have a lot of fun.
Going, what do you call that? Like we were like off the grid.
Yeah, we totally were off the grid. Yep.
So it was a lot of fun.
Not the first time and not the last time, actually, but yes.
That was a fun New Year's.
We were off the grid.
Then I think most years...
And lo and behold, the clocks worked just fine.
Everything
nothing missed a beat, but we partied out in the woods.
Yeah.
So the ball dropped that year, right? Just like every other year. I mean, there was no disruption whatsoever.
Yeah, so that was a long time ago, right? That 99.
Now we're dating ourselves, sure.
Yeah. And I think that was like the last big one. And then we had kids, and then it was just like sparkling cider and
a little different kind of party, sure.
Yeah. And then now I can barely stay up. I think I stayed up by myself last year, actually. And I did watch the ball drop on TV last year. Now,
did you wake me up or something?
The last couple of years, you cannot wake you up.
No.
Anyway. So, yeah. That's it. I don't really have any other stories. Aside from, my youth in the 20s, and you would go out and go to Boston or whatever.
Right.
And
get together with your
whoop it
friends.
up then. But
I think we got a limo one year, and you went into the city, and done some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But again, everyone gets a fresh start, so you kind of ring in the new year like a wild man, so to speak.
Yeah, so traditions would be watching the ball drop.
Yep.
A toast.
Yep, big toast.
The kiss your
girl, kiss your guy, kiss your significant other. Yeah, again, fresh start and
fresh start.
Give everyone
cheers to a new year.
Give everyone a kiss.
So, I guess we'll leave it at that.
All right, sure. Do you have some content for us?
I do. I actually found it really interesting. I like I said, I wasn't sure what I was going to do, and then I found this, and I thought it was really interesting. So I'm sticking to, of course, just New York City ball drop.
Yep.
I'm not talking
you
about
said there was a ton of
around the
information.
world.
So
there always is. There's always a lot more information out there than I always think there's going to be. I expect something to be like short and simple, and I'm like, no way.
Eastern Standard Time this time, because you obviously have the entire world. It flips the clock. So go ahead, you'll stop and.
All right, so I'll start. And the year we are starting off in is 1904, which is the first subway opened in New York City. It was a big deal. It was the year of the first ever New Year's Eve celebration at Times Square. So not the first, New Year's in different ways and in different cultures throughout time have been celebrated at different times of the year and in different ways. So again, I'm just focusing on the New York City ball drop in Times Square.
I never thought about that, but why is it called Times Square?
I'm going to tell you.
All right, go ahead. Enlighten us.
All right. So 1904, big doings. The celebration that was held before, I think in New York City, was at a church, and I don't remember the name of the church, but the New Year's celebration would happen at a church in New York City. But the celebration that was happening at this particular year in 1904 was to commemorate the new headquarters of the New York Times, which opened up in the second tallest building in Manhattan at the time, which ended up being called the Times Tower.
Okay.
So the owner of the Times, New York Times, at that time was a German Jewish immigrant named Adolf Ochs, O-C-H-S. Hopefully pronouncing that right. He lobbied to have the name changed of that piece of land. It was a triangle piece of land located between 7th Avenue, Broadway, and 42nd Street.
Still is.
And was called Longacre Square. And it was named that after Longacre Square in London. And Ochs lobbied to have the name changed to Times Square and the Times Tower because the New York Times took over that building.
Yep.
So that's how it became called Times Square. He won.
There you go. Absolutely. Yes. Mr. Ochs was very influential. Yeah,
he really was. So then, the Times Tower was the focal point of his planned New Year's celebration. He went all out for this first celebration. Again, this is 1904. He planned an all-day street festival ending with fireworks display at midnight. This festival included hats, with the year on it, rattles and noisemakers, and was very well attended with over 200,000 people in attendance for that first celebration.
And it's funny to think how kind of traditional that is that we still do that stuff. To this day, the making the noisemakers and the flat,
Yeah, hats were always
quite the trendsetter here, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So it's quoted by another author, and I didn't get the name of the author, but of course it was a New York Times article. The quote is, "From base to dome, the giant structure was a light, a torch to usher in the new year." So this whole Times Tower was just like party central.
Wow.
And then the fireworks were set off right at the base of the tower. Like everything was right there at Times Square.
No kidding.
So this celebration began the newest, hottest way to bring in the new year. But 2 years later, New York City banned the use of fireworks.
Still doing a lot of fireworks.
So Ox, who is not to be deterred, decided to have a large illuminated 700-pound iron and wood ball lowered from the flagpole of the Times Tower to signal the end of 1907 and the beginning of 1908.
This guy was no joke, right? He was very, very on the front end of all this.
And there you have the first ball drop in New York City.
A 700-pound iron and wood ball.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I read too, like the history behind it. This wasn't like the first, like, forgive me, this is going to sound silly, but like balls were very like popular, like around the world, as ways to celebrate. And I didn't get into that. So I found that to be kind of a little fascinating twist off of it. But this one served a purpose. And of course, when the balls were first dropped to like signify the new year or whatever, no one could get it synchronized correctly, so everything would kind of be off, you know.
Yeah, we didn't actually get to the bottom at exactly the right time, but yeah, sure.
But anyway, this was it was because of Ox that we had the first ball drop, and that was the 1907, the beginning of 1908, New Year's Day. So this ball was built by a young immigrant metalworker named Jacob Starr. And for most of the 20th century, the company he founded, which was called Artcraft Strauss, and they were a sign-making company, they were responsible for lowering the ball and creating the ball. And then in 1914, so 7 years after that, the New York Times outgrew their space at Times Tower and relocated to 229th West Street and 43rd Street. But the tradition never left Times Square. It stayed, even though the New York Times, company had to leave. It was firmly ingrained in our culture and has been so ever since. So, fun little history.
Absolutely.
I have a lot more that goes along with that, but...
Sure.
You ready?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nothing to add yet?
No, nothing to add
yet. Feel
yet.
free to interject.
I'm sorry. I'm doing the best I can. I'm learning a lot this episode.
No, it's a lot.
Oh.
So the ball drop has been quite an attraction since 1907. The only time it wasn't dropped was during World War II, during the years of 1942 and 1943, when the United States declared a wartime dim out of lights in New York City.
Interesting.
And that was it was a nightly dim out meant to protect New York from air and naval attacks.
Of course. I'm surprised though with New Year's they didn't make it like an exception.
Yeah, no. And so, but they did, even though they didn't have this big celebration, people still gathered in the streets. And at midnight, instead of, celebrating and partying with lights and fireworks and the ball drop and everything, they had a moment of silence and would honk their horns to bring in the new year.
They didn't even light up their cell phones?
Yeah, no.
No. Not in World War II?
Not during that time, no. I know, it's weird because now it's just...
You couldn't make it dark.
No.
You just couldn't. People would have their cell phones out.
Yeah.
Yeah, impossible. You could drop bombs on us wicked easy now.
That's fun fact right there.
Right? Big difference.
So that's basically the gist of the history of the ball drop in New York City and the reason why it's called Times Square and the reason why we have the ball drop. But I do have a ton of informational fun facts about the whole thing.
I like fun facts.
I do too.
I think people like fun facts.
All right. So I'm going to bring it. And I'm going to bring the first fun fact. We're comparing the first ball to the ball that is prepared for actually this New Year's.
Okay.
So the first ball in 1907 Again, made of iron and wood. It was over 700 pounds. It had 125 watt light bulbs, which sounds funny.
Well,
right now.
25 watts back then must have been something, right?
It was 5 feet in diameter.
Pretty good size. 700 pounds.
Yes. Well, it was iron and wood.
Substantial.
Yeah, it wasn't made of lightweight, plastics.
No. I'm sure there was quite the pulley system, the elaborate, pulley system that lowered this thing up and down or whatever.
So that was the first New Year's Eve ball in 1907. So for this year, the ball is a geodesic sphere. It's 12 feet in diameter, so more than double, and weighs 11,875 pounds.
Which is a lot more than 700 pounds.
The ball is covered with a total of 2,688 Waterford crystal triangles that vary in size.
Wow.
And for this particular year, they have the design for it. It's going to be, and I don't know why, it's 190, I should have looked into that. There's 192 different types of designs. So there's 192 Waterford crystal triangles that introduce the new gift of wisdom design, represented by a central wheel with wedge-cut petals of knowledge growing ever forward. 192 of them are also a gift of happiness design. 192 of them are the gift of goodwill design. 192 of them are the gift of harmony design. 192 are the serenity design of butterflies flying peacefully above a crystal meadow. And then 192 are the gift of kindness design of a circle of rosettes symbolizing unity. 192 are the gift of wonder design. Then there's 192 are the gift of fortitude design of diamond cuts on either side.
What is the significance of 192?
I should have done that, right?
I wonder if it's just the total number of crystals kind of divided by however many of these gifts they wanted to,
And how many gifts are there? What did I say? How many gifts?
3 or 4 anyways, right?
More than that. You have, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, see, if it was going to be 12, I would have thought there was I don't know.
Some math solution to it.
Something.
I feel like that's an awful oddity. It's an oddity that 192 comes in all those times.
Well, I can always Google it.
Okay.
It adds 192 crystal triangles to the ball each year since 2014.
So we still don't know the significance of that number, though.
The addition depicts a greatest gift representing the hopes and themes for each new year. So so every year since 2014, 192 new crystals are added to the ball. This year's theme is the gift of wisdom.
Okay.
The other ones were...
Okay, so those are previous
year's gifts.
Okay.
Interesting.
So they add to it every single year.
192.
Sure. I still don't understand the significance of that number in particular. If that's the number of the countries in the world or, something like that.
Yeah.
Right?
192. If anyone knows the answer.
Yeah, strange oddity. Yeah, let us know. Reach out. Email us.
Interesting. There's always one thing, I think when I'm researching, I'm like, ooh, and then I research a little further, into something, and then other things don't,
Well,
I don't know. I don't question it, and then
in your research too.
And then it's always I wonder why that is.
Yeah, I'm listening to you, and I'm like, why 192? What's the significance of that? Is it a math thing? Does it have to do with the diameter? And
I didn't. When I was reading it, I thought that it was just. I thought it was this year's design that all these different gifts, meaning these gifts meant something. It could have been
Yeah, those are previous year's
12
gifts,
days
right?
of Christmas or something. I didn't know.
Yeah.
It's
got to be symbolic of something. It's got to represent something.
So I didn't realize
so we'll get back to you on
it's
that.
192 every year.
We don't claim to be foolproof on this, by the way. We're not Websters. This is a fun little podcast.
I do.
We try to be informative.
I do have links there.
All right.
But none of them said why.
Okay, so there you go. Keep going.
Okay, so this year,
I'll find something else to mess
instead of, thanks, I appreciate that. Instead of 125 watt bulbs, we have oh, geez, I don't even know. It's illuminated by 32,256 LEDs.
Oh, my goodness.
Each LED module contains 48 LEDs. So you have 8,064 of each color of red, blue, green, and white.
That's a lot of colors.
But the ball is capable of displaying a palette of more than 16 million vibrant colors and billions of patterns that creates a spectacular kaleidoscope. Yeah. So, big difference from the first ball to the ball now.
The light just dances across the thing now. Like it's basically like a giant HD screen up there. Yeah, it's crazy.
The crystals.
Yep.
All right, so more fun facts.
Cool.
Since 1907, 7 versions of the ball have been designed to signal the new year, which really isn't a lot.
No, whatever the designs, they last for decades.
Yes. More than 1 ton of confetti drops in Times Square during the New Year's Eve celebration.
That is a lot of confetti.
And then I saw another fact. Oh, it's here somewhere. Where is it? That the cleanup is a beast. I think the quote was, the cleanup is a beast. Post-ball drop during the earliest hours of 2019, a few years ago, it took 300 overnight workers using 58 backpack blowers, 58 hand brooms, 52 collection trucks, 30 mechanical brooms, which I don't even know what that is.
I know what they are. I used to see them clean up job sites with them all the time. It's like a big kind of set of brushes on the bottom. Like, yeah, you know what they are.
Are they electric?
They're like brooms. No, but it's like many. They go around like a steamboat kind of.
Oh, all right.
You know what I mean? And they can clean the side of the road, and they're rugged.
So, 12 rack trucks. Anyway, a lot of cleanup. So it says there's up to 56 tons of debris in Times Square. So not just the confetti, but the trash and the hats and
how much
everything
of that
else
gets recycled and what actually has to just get smashed into a landfill. I hate that.
It's crazy.
I hate that.
Yeah. Kind of like, well, we just came back from New Orleans in December.
We're not gonna poop on New Orleans.
No, I was just going to say they had to wash in Bourbon Street. They would wash all the sidewalks and the streets, and I never knew that happened.
Yeah, people are gross.
It was gross.
Yeah,
I mean, it's good that they washed it.
It's essential.
I can't imagine what it would. So same thing, right?
You stick to the cobblestones walking down the road. You wouldn't be able to go anywhere. Yeah. But yeah, you imagine that, and then, like you say, you do one giant. Although I bet Mardi Gras is comparable. When they actually have Mardi Gras, I bet you they have. Anyways, we digress.
No, we'll have to do an episode on that when it comes time for Mardi Gras.
But again, I bet it's similar. Jeez, people just make so much trash.
It's so true. All right, more fun facts. The giant numerals that say 2022 are over 7 feet high and weigh a total of 1,130 pounds. So that's up on top of the building, right by the ball. They always have the year up there. Another fun fact, which I didn't know until I was researching this, I might have known this at one point in time, but you can watch it live. Like there's a live feed. Now you can watch like certain street cams or like, birds' nests or whatever.
Watch all types of stuff now.
So they
traffic
have
cams, intersections,
It's timesquareball.net, and they have 2 ball cams where you can watch live. And I didn't think they were very good. It's funny because you always picture it to be huge, but because it's so big on the TV screen, but when you're looking at it on top of the building, it's really not that big.
Well, it's a building.
Right?
I mean, it's a building. Helicopters don't look big on the top of buildings either, but they're big.
I guess so.
Right? Last time you walked up to a helicopter and was like,
well, it's not as big as a helicopter either, but I don't know. It just... Again, I feel like I
so
always
even more
expect
so.
it to
So it
be
looks
bigger.
even smaller.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm not surprised. Yeah. They'd have to pick a small building, right? It's a 12-foot ball. I mean, our bedroom's 22 feet long. It's a 12-foot ball.
Yeah, it's really not that big.
No, it's really not that big. But it weighs 11,000 pounds because of all the damn crystals.
Yeah.
And we're adding 192 crystals every year.
Yep.
Making that thing heavier and heavier.
Yeah. So because of, COVID and, people not being able to get out over the last couple of years, they're estimating over 1 million people this year to pack the streets of Times Square. Oh. Also, they attribute this to the city's decreasing crime rate and the warm weather because we've had pretty mild winters so far. So they're expecting more people.
We'll see how that works out. Mother Nature doesn't really care what they expect, but right. I get it.
Let's see. According to the Times Square Alliance, the best spots to go in New York City to see the ball drop are 43rd to 59th Streets at 7th and 43rd to 50th Streets at Broadway. Over 1 billion people will watch the ball drop from their televisions or wherever they're streaming or using. I shouldn't even say televisions anymore, whatever it is. I feel old.
It's getting to be an old term, actually, televisions, right?
And 100 million of these people will be in the U.S., and that'll be us. Again, it's not really, it's always one of those things where, well, I feel like the entertainment value now is huge. The artists and the shows that they put on.
It always has been, though.
So,
and that's Dick Clark. They always put on big shows and had on big guests, and it's always kind of been about the show.
It's always kind of just played in the background. And
well, because if you have, especially if you're having some sort of get together, some sort of celebration party, whatever, it's in the background. But if it's just us with the family or just you and I sitting around the living room, it's it's on the 65-inch. It's more in your living room.
Oh, and here we go, 22%, the number of Americans who fall asleep before midnight.
I am in that percentage a lot.
This was a good one, I thought. I didn't know this, and I don't remember it, but from 1981 to 88, the ball drop was an apple.
I don't remember that
either. It was
either.
An apple drop, and that was because of the, let's see, it was the I Love New York campaign. So the Big Apple, right?
Yeah, because New York really had a rough reputation in the 60s and through the 70s as a rough, rugged place. And they were trying to reinvent the city. I guess I kind of remember that campaign.
So they made it an aluminum ball which shined red and it had a green stem.
That did the trick.
Made it into an apple.
Did the trick.
Yep. In 2002, they honored 9/11, which this was kind of neat too. At 6 p.m., as the crystal ball ascended up the flagpole above One Times Square, bells tolled around the city. The ball's 504 crystals were marked with tallies of the presumed lives lost. Numbers that were there were still estimates at the time. The crystals were engraved with the police and fire precincts, the airlines, foreign nations, and flight numbers of the victims. And that year's theme was Hope for Healing.
Wow. That's quite the story. I didn't know that either.
I didn't know that.
I wonder where that ball is, actually. I bet you that must have been when they retired now. I wonder if that's in the museum.
It had to have been because the 2014 Waterford Crystal one is what's used now. That's added on to every year. So,
yeah.
And again, there's only been, I think, what did I say, 7?
Yeah, I think you said 7. Yep, since 1907.
Another fun fact that now you can write your New Year's wish on a piece of confetti that's blown out through New York City on New Year's Eve.
They call that capitalism, I think.
I feel like, because we went to New York City, we took the girls when they were younger, and we went in and saw one of the balls on display.
I don't remember.
And the confetti and stuff.
I don't remember.
Really?
It was a busy time.
It was really busy. But I remember that, and I remember the confetti, too. And I think some of the confetti was on display there somewhere.
No, I don't.
But let's see. Opened in early December and closed on Christmas, the New Year's Eve wishing wall located on Broadway between 46th and 47th Street invites passerbys to write their hopes for the new year on a square or circular confetti piece to be added to the ton dropped on New Year's Eve.
That kind of rings a bell.
You can also do it online.
Oh, okay.
If you want to. But yeah, I remember.
I seem to recall seeing that for some reason. Not the ball, but actually, I do remember that now. There was one place where I do remember that. Okay.
Welcome to the party.
Yep. No, I do remember that now.
You just had to dust off that file way back in
the It's very true.
Recesses of your brain.
Well, you know what? They get buried.
Okay, so you'd mentioned Dick Clark.
Yep.
Because it was, what was it? New Year's Eve at Dick Clark, right? Is that what it was called?
Yes, it was. It was his
New Year's Rockin' Eve. There we go. Dick Clark was inspired to create New Year's Rockin' Eve in response to Guy Lombardo. So I didn't know this, but Guy Lombardo was before the Dick Clark Rockin' New Year's Eve. And he is responsible, or somewhat responsible, I guess, for the song Auld Lang Syne being sung during New Year's Eve. So throughout the mid-20th century, Lombardo and his big band ruled New Year's radio airwaves. They later made the switch to TV, allowing audiences an at-home look into the Waldorf Astoria Hotel as guys and gals dined and danced into the new year. And over the years, Mr. New Year's Eve, as Lombardo began to be called, popularized Auld Lang Syne as the unofficial song of New Year's. Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind, Lombardo would croon over the airways, the song is still played all over the world and on New Year's.
Sure is.
It makes me think of It's a Wonderful Life.
Of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yep. Which I fell asleep watching this year.
I did not.
And I love that.
I saw the bell go and Clarence get his wings, and no, I
it's
hung
so
in
good.
there.
If you guys, I have to say to our listeners, if you have not watched those old-timey Christmas movies, if you love Christmas at all, you have to see those movies.
Yeah, It's a Wonderful Life
and White Christmas.
Absolute tearjerker, but just, great performances and so I don't know, innocent and young and just awesome. Just awesome.
The acting is so funny. Yeah. I love the old-timey stuff anyway.
Very much so. White Christmas, fantastic also.
Yeah. Well, that's it.
Yeah, that's all we got.
That's all I have.
Oh, it's quite a bit, actually. I mean, it's quite a bit. Seeing as you and I didn't have a lot of our own traditions, there's a lot of tradition behind it, obviously, so that's great.
Well, there's so much, and like I said, I only just did the New York City ball drop day. We could have added on to around the world or New Year's Eve celebrations and traditions, but as always, I'm hoping for our listening audience to reach out and let us know some of the things you do, like, for example, Chinese food.
Yeah, Chinese food is a big...
on New Year's Eve.
I don't know how recent that is or how old that is or anything like that.
That was another tradition we just didn't talk about. Mm-hmm. We kind of got fed up. I don't know what we're going to do this New Year's Eve.
Yeah, we got fed up because it's so busy. I can't deal with it. I got fed up.
And they limit their menu.
Oh, my word. Yes. Yeah. Chinese food rules the world for one night. No doubt about it.
It's crazy. And so
it's crazy.
We could talk about, maybe in another episode why that became a tradition or different traditions like that. But so we kind of limited it to keep it short because, again, there's so much more history than I ever think there's going to be when I'm researching something. So,
but yeah, reach out to us. Like Nick mentioned, we have a huge bunch of downloads happening in the UK, following overseas. I'm fascinated by that. What's your big tradition, or do you guys all watch the ball drop in New York? I mean, obviously everyone has their local traditions, so yeah, I'd be interested to hear.
Aside from drinking, because I feel
I think it's a kind of a common thread. To the Far East, everywhere we all drink. Yeah, but yeah, I'd be interested to hear. So that'd be cool.
Yeah, so this will be coming out a few days. Actually, I might release it a little early. I think this episode will come out New Year's Eve.
Ooh.
So if you don't hear us before then, or if you're listening to us afterwards, we wish you a very happy New Year. Stay safe. Always get a designated driver.
Yep.
Never drink and drive.
Nope.
Be safe.
For sure. It's not worth it.
Absolutely. And I think that's it. So thank you so much, for taking the time to listen to us today. Happy New Year. Make sure to follow us on any kind of social media account, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Let us know your funky New Year's traditions. You can always email us at waitwhatwhypod@gmail.com. And again, a shout out to Francis for our podcast artwork.
Shout out, Francis. Woo!
Yes, and always check out our website and the link to the show notes if you're curious about any of the timelines or other information we have. And we hope to hear from you.
Yep, fun.
Happy New Year.
Bye-bye. Bye.